We're on Nun Ches Amud Aleph by the two dots, 4 lines down from the top. Rabbana have a kamitzayin marasa. Rabbana took upon himself the job of noting, of making simonim, symbols, so Kehanim would know where there were kvarim. So the way we do it, they had marasa, they had tombs, underground tombs. And he would go into the caves where the people were buried and figure out how it measured up. He'd mark it on top where the actual graves were. Kimatul Marasad Avram, when he came to Avram Avinu's Mara. Now we all know what that Mara is. That's the Maras HaMachpelah. Ashkechel Eliezer Eved Avram, the Koi Kamei Bava. He found Eliezer, so to speak. I mean, Eliezer wasn't alive either, but he was standing in front of the gate. I guess his neshama in some form, and he was stopping him from going in. Amalei Maika Avid Avram. So Rabbana asked Eliezer, "Why are you stopping me from going into the tomb? What's he doing?" Amalei Gani Bekanfa de Sarah. He's sitting in the arms of Sarah. Become liberation. He's looking at her head. Essentially, in some spiritual form, they're embracing. Amalei, Zil Amalei, Bana Koyabava. So Rav Bana told Eliezer, go tell Avram and Sarah that I'm waiting at the door. Amalei, so he said to him, La'ayel. Avram said to Eliezer, let him go, let the Rav Bana come in. Made the idea, the Yetzer by Ha'al Malek. He's not going to misunderstand the situation when he comes and he finds Avram in Sarah's arms, because he knows there's no taivas, there's no desires in the Olam Haba, in the Olam Ha'emes, and that which he's sitting in her arms is some type of spiritual expression. Therefore, it's not inappropriate for Rabbana to walk in to Avram Avinu under this situation. This is very interesting stuff, right? That means
Yeah,
Eliezer was trying to keep him out because he thought it was inappropriate for him to see. And Avram said, no, he'll understand that this is not, there's nothing inappropriate about it. Ayel, so Rabbana came in Ayin and he took his measurements, Menafik, and he went out. Kimata Lamarasa, the Adam Harishon, when Rabbana came to the cave of Adam Harishon, which is, as we're going to see, was some kind of adjunct to the Maras HaMachpelah. Yatsa Baska of Amra, Nistakalta bid Mustu Yukni. You looked at his similar one. Avram Avinu looked similar, as we're going to see, to Adam Harishon. But Yukni Atzma Al Testaka. You can't look at Rebbe Shalom said that Adam Harishon, the Rebbe Shalom created Adam is Tzelem Elikim. And Adam was meaning that humans are created in the image of God. So Adam Harishon was the most precise copy of whatever that means. I can't tell you exactly what that means, but we all are familiar with that. So Adam Harishon was the most precise copy of the Rebbeinu Shalom's Surah. So Rebbeinu Shalom told Rabbana, Avram is the highest level that's appropriate for you to see of someone who has such a similarity to my tzura. But Adam Harishon is the ultimate copy. He's so close, it's not appropriate for you to see. So Rabbana asked, "Habi'ina l'tziyuni marasa." But he said, "But I have to measure the kever to make sure that people don't go over it." So Gemara, "Kamidas hachitzayna kach midas hapnimis." The Rebbe told him, "Don't worry about it. It has the same measurement on the outside like it has on the inside, meaning that Adam Harishon's kever was underneath Avram's. So he told him, I'm sorry, the one on the inside is the same as the one on the outside. That so there was Adam was in a Myra Hapnimi. He was there was an inner chamber that Adam Arishan was buried in. So Rebbe Shalom told him, you should just know that there's the same amount of space taken up by Adam's over that inner room as there was in the outer room when you measured for Avram. According to the Mandama, that Adam is not behind, it's not an inner chamber, but it's a lower chamber underneath the chamber where Avram is buried. The Moshe told him, you don't have to mark anything additional off because it's directly beneath Avram Avinu, and therefore whatever you marked off from on top will also be marking off for Adam Rishon. Amar Rabban, nistakalti b'shnei ikivav. Rabban said, I saw the two heels of Avram. The diamond l'shnei. Actually, is that? Let me look at the Rashbam. He saw the two heels of, I think it was Adam. Yeah, it's talking about Adam Rishon. I looked at the two heels of Adam Rishon. It's like the radiance that came forth from it because of he was so similar to the tzura of the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's like the two sons. The Gemara continues, Hakol b'fnei Sarah, k'koif b'fnei Adam. The beauty of Sarah was such that anyone next to her was similar, like that. The difference between a monkey and a human being. Sarah b'fnei Chava, k'koif b'fnei Adam, and Chava was so much more beautiful than Sarah that Sarah was compared to a kaif as compared to an Adam, to a human being. Chavnei Adam k'kayfnei Adam. And Chava herself was less beautiful, less radiant than Adam Arishan, as she was compared to a monkey compared to him. Adam b'fnei Shina k'kayfnei Adam. The same was an Adam klape the Shechina. This is all like we were saying before, that Adam Arishan was the ultimate Tzuras Adam, and the more attenuated, the more links there are between the person and Adam, that's how much the beauty is lessened. Shuf Reha, the Rav Kahana, the beauty of Rav Kahana, Me'en Shuf Reha, the Rabbi Avo, was similar to the beauty of Rav Avo, or the radiance of Rav Avo. Shuf Reha the Rav Avo, Me'en Shuf Reha the Yaakovin, similar to Yaakovin. Shuf Reha the Yaakovin, Me'en Shuf Reha the Adam Rish. And Yaakovin was similar to Adam Rish. Hahu Amgusha. There was this Kishaf Macham. It's very hard to understand what he was. To have a chotit shichvi, he would come and take the clothing off of corpses, of buried corpses. Kimot amarasa de Rav Tuvi bar Masna. When he came to the cave of Rav Tuvi bar Masna, tafsei b'dikneh. The corpse of Tuvi bar Masna, when this Amgusha came to take his clothing, he grabbed to Rav Tuvi bar Masna grabbed his beard. Asa Abaya amle matusaminach. The Bach takes off this part of the beard. It says he just grabbed him. Asa Abaya amle matusaminach shavke. Abaya requested the corpse, the guf of Rav Tuvi bar Masna, to let go this Amgusha and let him go. Abaya had some relationship with him, and he wanted to help him out. The Shana Achriti, Hadar, the next year, this Amgusha came again. Also Tafshe B'dikne. And again, this time the Tuvi bar Masna grabbed onto his beard. Asa Abaya. Abaya came and again requested to let him go. Lo Shafke. He didn't let him go. Ad Aisi Misap Maspera, until he brought a scissors, the Gazia Dikne, and cut his beard and freed the Amgusha. Since we brought up graves, I guess that's why we brought this up. But beyond that, I can't tell you what any of this means. I don't know why this guy was stealing, why this is Amgusha. What does it mean that a kishuf macher, someone who does magic, why was he getting the clothing? It doesn't sound Doesn't sound like it was a good thing. So what was Abaya helping him? I don't know. So talking about Hud Amalu Chavita de Afra Lechad Broi. There was a man who said to his children, I have a barrel of earth, of dirt for one son, Chavita de Gami Lechad Broi, and a barrel of bones for another son, Chavita de Odra Lechad Broi, and then a barrel of cotton balls of stuffing for one son. No one knew what he was talking about. Also, and the person died, and this was like his final will. Also, Rabbana, they came to Rabbana. Amlu isluchu ara. He asked, "Does your father who died did he have land?" Amlu in isluchu chiyusa. Does he have herds? They said in isluchu bistarki. They asked him, Do you have certain type of cloths, of towels, of blankets?" In. So he said back to me, Hachi, Hachi Kamalchu. This is what he was telling you. He was telling you that the son, there were three sons, and he's saying that the karka should go to one son, and the herds of cattle should go to the second son, and the third son should get the blankets. It's just a story to tell you the wisdom of Rav Bana. Once we're talking about Rav Bana, he's the one who answered the story. Ahu Gavra, the Shamalu Devisu, he heard his wife, the Ka'amala Barsa, who was saying to her daughter, Amai loitznias bisura. Why aren't you more careful to not be so brazen with your promiscuousness? The mother continued to talk, and she said, I myself have 10 sons, and only one of them came from your father. She was like boasting about how she was very surreptitious with her promiscuousness, and her husband, never found out that 9 of her 10 sons were not from him. He wasn't the father. Kishachev, when the father died, this poor guy, whose wife was running around and then encouraging her daughter to do the same thing, Amalahu kol nichsi l'chad bra. He said, I want all my belongings to go to one son. Lo yahadi lahu minayu. But they didn't know which one. He himself didn't know which one was really his son, and no one else did either. I guess the mother maybe did. I assume the mother probably did. And she said there was one that was from him, so she knew which one it was. But she wasn't talking, and no one would believe her anyway. Also, look, Kamei de Rabbana. They asked Rabbana what to do. The father wanted it to go to one of the sons. We don't know which one. Amalu zilu chavutu kivra. You said you should go and bang on the kever of your father until he gets up from his grave and tells you which one of the sons he wants to give it to. Ozlu Kulu. They all got up to do Ahu de Bray have a loyaz. But the one who was not his son, he didn't go. Amalahu Kulu Nichse Dahai said that this son that didn't go, that's the one who should get it. So the Rashban gives two pshatim. Either it was because the father Taka didn't know which one it was, but he wanted to determine which one had the most respect for him. So the one who didn't go bang on his grave in order to get some money, that was the one that he would probably want to give to. The Rashbam also says the second shot that we know that there's a cloud that mamzerim are mechutzafim. That's when someone does an avera, it has a permanent effect, and the effect of mamzeris of someone being it's the mother's avera, but the effect it has on children, it makes them mechutzafim. So this was a way of determining which one is not the mamzer. according to the other pshat, that it was to figure out which one had the most respect for the father. This is similar to what we had earlier, the din of shuda dedaina, when you have a case where we have no way of determining with a edus what the person meant. So this is the way for the dayanim, the one who would decline to go bang on the father's grave. That's probably the one that the father would have loved the most, and that's what he would have wanted to give to. The other sons were not happy about this, and they both went and complained about Rav Bana to the Melech. They informed him. They moisered. Amri ikke gabra chabi yudoi. The kamafik mimayim anshe beloy sadi or beloy midi. They said about Rav Bana that he came up with this kunz about how to figure out who to take the money from, and they said it was not. It was extrajudicial. He came without any edim and without any justification, and he took our money away. Asyur chashavua. So they went and they took Rabbana and they put him in jail. Oslo Devisu. So Rabbana's wife was also a smart lady. So she went, Amalahu, she said to him, Avdachar Havali, I have one Evet, Pasku L'Reisha, and they cut off its head, my Evet's head, Upashtu L'Mashche, and they skinned it, V'achlu Bisra, and they ate the Basra, V'kamalu Be'mai, and they filled it with water, Umashku L'Chavre, they used it to give people what to drink, V'lekayavali Dami V'leagre. They didn't pay me for the Eved, and they didn't pay me the rent. The Yadi Mai Ka'amalu. And they didn't understand what she was saying. I mean, she went and said this to the Melech, to the Melech's officials. This cryptic question that they took her Eved, and they skinned it, they killed him, and they skinned him, and then they drank from him, and they ate the basar, and no one knew what she's talking about. Amru Nesu L'Chachima D'Yudoi. So they said, let's ask this Rav Bana who we have in the jail, who's very smart, maybe he'll understand. Belema, and he'll tell him. Kuyula Rabbana, they called Rabbana, Amalahu, Zarnuka Amalahu. What she's referring to, they used to use a goat skin to fill with water. So it's the Mefarshim explain why she called a Eved, she called a goat an Eved, but that was what she was referring to. She wasn't referring to obviously eating a human. What she was talking about is someone took her goat and made a goat skin out of it, and they never paid her for the goat. And that was obviously the correct explanation, which we see even from, right, this is like Yosef, that you go to the Jews for the interpretation. Amri hayel v'chachim kuli hay. So they said about Rav Bana, since he's so smart, Leisav Ababa, let him sit by the gate, and need Dina, let him become a judge. Obviously, he got out of jail. Chazad have a ksiv ba'avula. He saw Rav Bana when he was sat in the courtroom. He saw that they had scribed on the courtroom, Kol dayin the miskari ladin, lo shmei dayin. Any dayin who himself is brought to answer a din Torah, he has to be kicked out. It means he's shown that he himself is not trustworthy. If someone sued him, so he's not trustworthy. How could it be just because he was sued that he should lose his job as a judge? Anyone could passel a judge with that. Ela kol dayin the miskari ladin umafkin mine mimayne bedin lav shmei dayin. He said Rav Bana changed it to any dayin that's called to the din Torah, and he loses the din Torah. So then you see he's brought to not to a din Torah over here. We're talking about a secular court. He's sued in court and he loses. So then he loses his status as a judge. It means he's not a trustworthy person. He's going to be subject to, he'll be susceptible to bribery. Kasvu hachi. So therefore they wrote next to their other quote, Baram sabidi yudayami kol dayin the miskudin umafkimina mamayibidin lav shmei dayin. They added on this addendum that Rav Bana said that it's only talking about someone who is found to be liable in a court case. He saw another statement. Chaza the ksiv b'roish kol mosa on a dam, b'roish kol chayin on a chomer. They said that they wrote this like advice for people that what causes the cause of all death is dam, meaning a person who has too much dam. That's why they used to do bloodletting. They believed that too much dam, high blood pressure, was the cause of all death, and therefore, if you let out some blood, that will save them. And they said that wine is the best that can save anyone. Um, Elam, so Rabbana asked them, Elamiata denafel me'igru mace, someone who falls from a high tower and dies. Denafel midiklu mace, someone who falls out of a tree and dies. Damakatle, did he die from high blood pressure? How can you say that everything comes from dam? Besu min didiracha lememas mashkule chamra. Someone man dedarcha someone who's about to die. If you give him wine, the chai is going to save him. How can you say that every death is because of too much blood, and and wine can save everyone? It's not true. Both are not true. Some people die from accidents, and some people can't be saved by wine. So this is what he suggested, right? The roish kol marin anadam. The head of all sicknesses is dam. I mean, that's the most prominent sickness, but it's not the only one. Roish kol asvan anachama. The head of all cures of medicines is one. Kasvu hachi. So therefore they wrote Baram. However, Sabi Yamri, the sages of the Jews say Roish kol marin anadam, roish kol asvan anachama. Ba'asad l'schama tamon. And they say, Ba'ata the less chamer, where there's no wine, tama mitvu samanim. Then you're going to have to use the other types of medicines. I don't know why that was stuck in over here, but the point was that if wine is not helping, then you come on to the other medications. Kseva pescha de kaputika ampek angev antal. It says on the top of the arch in Kaputka that these measurements, Amp and Angav and Antel, are all the same. Bezu Antel, what's an Antel? Zel Revius Shel Torah. That's the same shear, that's the same measurement as a Revius of Torah. Zot the Mishnah. Hamarziv Ein Loi Chazak. A marziv, which is it's a spout. I don't know how familiar you are with gutters and drain pipes and spouts. So when you have a house that has a gutter on the side of the roof, that collects the water. Then it comes down on a pipe, and then on the bottom of the pipe, there's a spout that brings out the water. So we're talking about over here, if Ruvain had a spout going into Shimon's property, we say that a spout, we're going to see in the Gemara a lot of machlokes about exactly what the problem is, but Ruvain does not get a chazaka to tell Shimon, my spout has been there for 3 years, and therefore you can't object to it anymore. Because generally the idea is that a spout is something temporary, people move it about, so the fact that Reuben placed his in Shimon's property doesn't affect Shimon that much. He says he put it there now, but I'll move it tomorrow. But it's makom, the place where it is has chazaka. The Gemara is going to ask, what is that referring to? Hamaschila, the maschila is the gutter that collects the rain on top. So it projects again over the roof into the next person's property. If it's there for 3 years, there's a chazaka. Sulam ha-mitzri ein le-chazaka. A sulam is mitzri is a small footstool. It's a small ladder. So since a person puts it in, let's say a person puts it into his neighbor's property, it's no chazaka because Reuven put it into Shimon's property. Shimon says, he put it here for now, it's temporary, he'll move it away tomorrow, so I'm not going to go to court to protest. But a larger ladder that is more permanent, then the person will make a macha, and therefore it has a chazak. Chaloin hamitris and the chazak. Chaloin hamitris is a small window. If a person makes a small window, Reuven makes a small window in his house, and it looks into Shimon's property, and Shimon is bothered by Shimon might potentially be bothered by it. The fact that Reuven has it there for 3 years doesn't give him a right to keep it, because Shimon says that's a small window that people open up and close all the time, so it was temporary. Uletzuris yesh l'chazaka, but a larger window there is a chazaka. Ezu chaloin hamitris. What is considered a chaloin hamitris? The small window that there's no chazaka. It's so small that a person's head doesn't fit out of it. Rabbi Yehuda Amem Yeshla Malvin, if it has a frame, he says if there's a frame, that's too permanent for the person who it's bothering, who's saying Shimon, who's saying that it bothers him. You can't say that it's temporary. If there's a frame around it, obviously it's intended to stay, and you should have been meicha in the first 3 years. What was that first thing that we said? That the water spout that takes the water out, there's no chazaka for it, but its makam has a chazaka. Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel, hachikama. Hamarzav ein lechazaka miruach achas. V'yeshel mekayim chazaka mishtei ruchas. It's true that he doesn't have a chazaka, that he could keep it in the place where he put it, because he has two choices. He could put the spout on one end of the gutter or on the other end, right? You put it normally at an end to let the water drain out. So he has, although he can't say, the person who placed the drain spout can't say, I want to keep it where it is because I have a chazaka of 3 years. He does have a chazaka to keep it somewhere. So he can move it if the owner objects and says, I want where you put it is not convenient for me. The person, the Reuven, who put the drain spout there, can move it to the other end of the gutter. But Shimon cannot tell him to get rid of it completely. So that's what it means. The Mekayma yesh lechazak. Rechanina amar marzav ein lechazaka. A marzav doesn't have chazaka. Shemhaya aruch mikatzrei. That means if it's too long, the Shimon can object and can't say that you should shorten it. That means, I'm sorry, Shimon can't say you have to shorten it. He doesn't have a chazaka to say, I had a 5-foot marzav that I want to keep a spout, and I want to keep it like that. Shimon could say, no, make it only 1 foot. However, according to this pshat, Shimon cannot say get rid of it altogether. So he's allowed to keep the spout there, but he doesn't have a chazaka to keep it so long. Abba says, what does it mean a marzav ein lechazaka? It's not that he could take it away, but rather it means that Shimon could say, I want to build something underneath it, and you can't complain. But if the neighbor says, I want to build something there, and I need you to take it away, that he can't do. He can build around it, and the person who put the drain spout there can't say, oh, now it's going to cause the water to splash back on my house. He has no standing to make that complaint, but he can keep the spout there. In fact, the Gemara on this last pshat, Nan hamaschila yesh chazaka. We said that the gutter itself does have a chazaka. If the owner, if Shimon never complained about the gutter itself, then the owner can keep it there. So Bishlam Manama Hanach Tarti Shaper. According to the first two pshatim, who say that you're allowed to keep the the drain spout, the drain spout, you can force him to move it, or the drain spout, you can force him to shorten it. So that doesn't apply to the gutter. The gutter can't be moved and it can't be shortened. So we understand why we say it has a chazak, because there's nothing that Shimon could say to say that you don't have a chazak, that you have to change anything. Why is it? What's the difference? What's the potential theoretical difference between a gutter and a drain spout? That we said a drain spout you could build underneath it, but a gutter you can't. Why can't you build underneath the person's gutter. No. There is a reason. We're talking about a gutter made out of stone. The amalei tisra ish ashisa. If you're going to build over here, that's going to cause my gutter to break. The gutter is more the stone gutter, even though it lasts for a long time. But if you build something underneath it, that will cause undermine it. That will cause the stone to crack. So therefore, a wooden spout you're allowed to build underneath. But a person who had his gutter there for 3 years, he can say, and now all of a sudden Shimon says, I want to build underneath it. Reuven could tell him, no, I have a chazaka that I have my gutter here. If you're going to build underneath it, it's going to damage, it's going to undermine it. So therefore, he says to him, I'm not willing. You should do so. And if you had a problem with my gutter, you should have objected earlier. Okay, we'll stop over here and continue Be'ez Hashem at 7:10 tomorrow.
It's good. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Good day, Koto.